So if we take a peek at the what I call the Office 365 capture equation, a lot of organizations are moving into the cloud. They want to host their information off-site. And from a scanning and document processing perspective, they've got a number of devices, everything from scanning copiers, desktop scanners, maybe they've got OpenText Write Fax, where they want to route faxes into the cloud. Maybe they've got production scanners or JPEG photographs, or maybe just a huge directory of non-searchable PDFs they want to pick up, process, make searchable, and route into the cloud. So what SiteCapture gives you, it lets you automate and standardize a process. So you can now dynamically route documents based on document information or metadata to sites, libraries, and folders. You can dynamically build standardized folder structures and file naming schemes so that within the SharePoint interface in the cloud, everything is organized and structured and done the same way regardless of who is scanning documents. It lets us automatically set content what SiteCapture provides. So if we take a peek at the what I call the Office 365 capture equation, a lot of organizations are moving into the cloud. They want to host their information off-site. And from a scanning and document processing perspective, they've got a number of devices, everything from scanning copiers, desktop scanners, maybe they've got OpenText Write Fax, where they want to route faxes into the cloud. Maybe they've got production scanners or JPEG photographs, or maybe just a huge directory of non-searchable PDFs they want to pick up, process, make searchable, and route into the cloud. So what SiteCapture gives you, it lets you automate and standardize a process. So you can now dynamically route documents based on document information or metadata to sites, libraries, and folders. You can dynamically build standardized folder structures and file naming schemes so that within the SharePoint interface in the cloud, everything is organized and structured and done the same way regardless of who is scanning documents. It lets us automatically set content type based on document characteristics and metadata. So what that means is I can look at the document, evaluate it, classify it, and auto-determine which type of document it is, either based on some basic things, or you've got the ability to really create some custom scripting in SiteCapture to do some really neat logic-based evaluations of documents. So in a nutshell, pictures are good. We can pick up documents. We can look at information on the documents, determine what they are, what project they're for, either based on a barcode or extracted data or even a contract number, and then auto route to site, folder, library, or even place just the metadata into a list in Office 365. Okay, we've also got auto creation capabilities. So in the SiteCapture product, in configuration, you can set it up so that upon the initial migration to Office 365, we'll auto-generate libraries, folders, and lists. So we'll first check for their existence. If they don't exist, we can auto-create them as long as we have the rights and permissions within the Office 365 environment. Okay. True integration through the capture workflow with Office 365. So we give you the ability, we've actually written an abstraction layer that gives us lookup capability into Office 365. So what you can do is during the capture process, let's say you find a phone number on an invoice and you want to go ahead and ping Office 365 to a SharePoint list that has vendor information and bring back the vendor name. We can do that, and I'll actually show you that in the interactive demo, which I'm going to perform here in a few minutes. And we can do that lookup to libraries, lists, and choice lists within Office 365 environment. Okay. One of the new features that we've also added, not only for Office 365, but also on-premise SharePoint, is this notion of linking lists and libraries. So our outstanding developers wrote this technology that lets us auto create a linked table or list, a relationship between a list and a single document. Now you may say, when would I want to do that? Any type of document that may have multiple sets of data that are linked to an individual document. The example that comes to mind first is an invoice that might have multiple line items. We have the ability to not only write the information into a SharePoint list, but also as we're writing that list, creating a link to a document library to that image of the invoice. Another example might be a check that pays multiple invoices, where you would have multiple invoice numbers in a list that link back to that original document. So we've created this link between lists and libraries, which is a first out there within the industry. What I really want to get across to you is I've shown you the SharePoint pieces. Know that we bring to the table every type of feature set that an advanced capture or scanning application might need to have within your environment. Everything from being able to read hand printing, forms processing, reading barcodes, redaction, the ability to bait stamp or number documents, create searchable PDFs, the ability to integrate with fax repositories. All of those capture features within the SciCapture on-ramp can be applied to document processing, with the end result being an automatically built repository within Office 365. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to a demonstration. It's going to create searchable PDFs and then migrate based on key criteria to Office 365. Now, if I open up the Office 365 interface, what you're going to see is that I have a list here with fax numbers as well as vendor names. Okay, and this was actually auto-created through SciCapture as well. I extracted the data and migrated it into Office 365. I just scanned. Now, the way SciCapture functions, I mentioned that it's dynamic at the site, library.
Keep in mind, for an example, this could be any fields that you're extracting from documents. So if this was a CMS 1450 document, we could extract the patient's name, the total amount due or totals, the service dates, anything else that you wanted to be able to be put in these fields, and anything else that you wanted. If there was an ICD-10 code or there was address or other information that you wanted to extract out of the document, we could pull that information out and write it here, along with the redacted file or unredacted file, or both the files, depending on what you want, or a partial redaction of those files.
And folder level. So I can dynamically route documents to those three entities within Office 365. For folders and libraries, I can actually auto create them as well. So you can see that I auto built a folder for Granger. And then what I did, I took the invoice date, and using our folder creation and masking capability, I've created a year folder. I've created a month folder. And then within that folder, you can see that I've got my scanned invoice, which I custom named vendor-invoice number, and I've populated all my columns.
So again, this could be the CMS 1450 file, any of the folder structure that you wanted to create, all the custom file naming, all the index values that we pull out of the document. We can name that file, create that folder structure on the fly, and do that dynamically. And then we can also present that information into the SharePoint library under the different fields. So if you wanted patient name, you wanted amount, you wanted the service dates, any procedural dates, anything like that, we can do that. So just keep in mind, this can be customized. This is an example of an invoice, but this can be customized to any environment and send that information to the team sites, not only the documents, but the metadata or the index values.
Okay, all of that was done automatically based on the data that was collected and or entered in SciCapture. So a nice standardized interface automatically built right here in Office 365. Now note that we can do what we call multi-stream migrations. So we can migrate data and or the image to libraries, or we can just migrate the data to a list. So if you have a list that you want to build with business intelligence data or information that's been extracted from documents, you can not only send the documents to an archive so you can search and retrieve them or kick off workflows, but you also have the ability just to send the data, not only to Office 365 list, but to SQL, any type of backend database, as well as some generic formats like CSV, XML, and things like that.